First of all, we just want to thank you all so much for being here. For those of you who have been here throughout the last 3 days, or just joining us for our final session, I'm Christina Gonzalez, Executive Producer of Politico's events for Europe. And we are so incredibly proud to have partnered with the GlobeSec Forum for this event. So thank you all so much to GlobeSec for the partnership. We also want to thank our partners at Google for helping us to make this possible. So without further ado, I would love to bring my colleague Jan Chinsky back to the stage for our final discussion, as Nick says, with the president of GlobeSec, Robert Vass. Thank you. Give them a round of applause.
Thanks, Christina. And as they said, this is the final panel, and we're going to be talking to Robert Vass, the founder, the reason that this whole forum exists. I've been sort of focused on what we're doing here at the Speakeasy, and the big takeaways were a very strong focus on Ukraine, and we had a lot of reactions to the back and forth from Trump on the Polish troop decision. And so we had polls from both sides of the political divide and ministers from across the region kind of talking about what that means for their sense of the reliability of American security guarantees. I'd be interested, you have a much broader perspective. You brought this whole thing together and you've been around much more. What's your big takeaway from this year's GlobeSec?
So thank you very much. And it's, for me as an organizer, it's always great to close the conference because I feel much more revealed and at ease.
A few months of relaxation.
Well, not. I think one day, and then we have to start again. But I think that conference was this year super relevant. I have several very important takeaways. What dominated in the conversation to a large extent was several things. First, that there is a changed narrative around Ukraine. Ukraine is not anymore just a security consumer. They are a security provider to Europe. So they've been able to adapt so quickly in technology and AI that Europe now will be dependent on their technological base. So we will have to integrate them into the European security system. Because if we don't, we will not be strong enough. So they completely changed the balance. And now we need them sometimes more than they need.
We heard that here, with the American generals saying that biggest, toughest, best equipped military in Europe, and that there's lessons to be learned from what the Ukrainians are doing in warfighting, industrial production, a whole host of other.
Especially in industrial production, they've been able to really create an industry which is changing completely the battlefield, and Europe needs to learn from it. We are still not there. We still have many things to do, and that's the second point, that defense is not anymore just a military problem. It is an industrial problem. We have the political will, we have the money. A lot of money is being poured into defense. But there are bottlenecks. Why this money is not being translated into increased industrial capacity. And that's one of the analyses that GlobeSec brought here on what are the bottlenecks in European military industry base.
Was there a panel or a voice that sort of really spoke to you on that particular issue, of that?
So there were several conversations on the main stage, on the round tables, side events, side meetings. And I'm particularly happy that we have hosted the largest number of CEOs from defense industry, investors, because industry has become the central part of making Europe stronger and more sovereign even. So the conversations were super relevant. And they were not only strategic and hypothetical, but very practical on how to make sure that Europe, that the money that we are spending in Europe translates into the real industrial capacity. And that's the key point. And we cannot do that without Ukraine. Also, another point in this sense was that there is an opening now for Europe to move the negotiations with Russia, because Russia is feeling that it's not gaining, Actually, they are losing more people right now than they are able to recruit. Ukraine has been able to do it thanks to the drone.
And especially Marco Rubio seems to have thrown in the towel on the American-led peace negotiations.
Exactly.
So it does leave an opening for.
I think we have an opening for several next month that we have to close, and we have to
pick
come
that
up
up
with
at the
our
forum here. People talking about that.
Absolutely, it was picked up on several stages. We had a very good conversation in the morning behind closed doors with several ministers who just came from the NATO ministerial meeting yesterday. We had around 10 ministers who came just from the NATO meeting, so we had super relevant conversations around this. So we still have to discuss who will be in charge of all of this, but we realize that now is the moment for Europeans, because Americans are preoccupied with other
Did any
problems.
names come up? As you know, there's been talk of Stubb, of Merkel, a host of other ones. Anybody? Did you get?
I think this is less about names than about the structure and how we approach it, and we are still not there.
Right.
But I think we need to use the upcoming several weeks to clarify it. So technology, very important. Sovereignty in 2026 is industrial, digital, and technological before it is military. Supply chain, semiconductors, AI, data, and especially there were a lot of conversations about what the artificial intelligence will bring to the cybersecurity. Because in few months, if the new models of AI will be released, new Anthropic and many others, this will be a game changer for cybersecurity. And I think that we have such a huge investment gap in many areas in Europe that is not possible to close only by public spending. So one of the very important conversations was how do we mobilize private capital into areas that are needed in Europe. And that has dominated many of the discussions on the sidelines.
Yeah, we had the deputy head of NATO's transformation, the Italian admiral, the Italian general rather, and so he talked exactly about the AI and the need to integrate AI into warfighting, but how you also keep sort of ethical barriers on that, so that you always have a human at the end of the making the final decision as to attack or not. So interesting issue as well, which I think was sort of reflected elsewhere in the conversations too.
Yes, absolutely. And an overall takeaway is that leaders are realizing that we are in one of the largest global systemic transformation. And when I compare it with the mood last year, there is more complaining and waning that the old world is going away and we need to get it back, and how do we protect it? I think that the atmosphere today was more pragmatic and focusing, okay, so we take the world as it is, and we know it's changing, but we have a role to play. So there are a lot of opportunities in positioning Europe globally and internally. And I think that the mood has shifted in a way that we have the sense of urgency that we need to act quickly, we need to invest quickly, we don't have time, but also that we are in the driving seat. Basically, we can influence the things. We should not just wait what comes from Washington elsewhere. So there is more realization of a European approach, and I think it's very good.
You'd mentioned when we spoke earlier that there were a lot of other areas that were taking place here at the forum as well. The Iran war, Africa, Middle East. So what were some of those other areas that really kind of
Yeah, I'm really glad that we hosted so many foreign ministers, probably the largest group of foreign ministers ever at GlobSec. We had around more than 50 delegations worldwide on the level of foreign ministers, almost 20, including countries like Ghana, Uruguay, Kenya, but also United Arab Emirates. Yesterday we hosted a very interesting dinner with Sheikh Abdullah and with European foreign ministers about the discussion of the Hormuz Strait and what's going on in Middle East and what kind of impact it has. And these discussions about the Middle East and how it impacts Europe, how it impacts global security, global energy supply chains has been very important, and I think there is a realization that these conflicts are interconnected. I think what Ukraine has done very well is that when they've seen the crisis in the Middle East, that the foreign minister and the President Zelensky traveled to Middle East and signed several deals to help Middle Eastern countries. I think that was a game changer also for Ukraine, and it was taken very well. What I'm afraid is that the situation in the Strait of Hormuz is very complicated, and it will be not solved so quickly. And even that we might prepare for another military campaign. There is a strong possibility of that. But neither of the choices are not good. And I think that in some point there will need to be an international coalition of willing to open the Strait of Hormuz.
Some of the ministers we had here at the Speakeasy were talking about this French-British effort to help open the Strait of Hormuz on the condition that there's some sort of a ceasefire, that the fighting ends. Did you pick up conversations on that as well, that where the Europeans are with that and their relationship with the pressure they're getting from the United States to get involved?
There were a lot of conversations about it, and Europeans are feeling that war is not European war, that it was not consulted with them, and now we have to somehow clean the mess that is done. But the thing is that the consequences are really global, and they are affecting Europe, and the real effects of the impact on energy, on inflation, on many things will just come, and they will be severe. So I think eventually it is a global problem. It is a European problem as well, and I think there will need to be a coalition, maybe not led by the United States, to open Hormuz, and we'll see what shape and what time this can happen. But the consequences are not only on oil and gas, but fertilizers. Right. So this might be really a problem of very soon of hunger as well. So I think we still will see the real consequences that will come.
So there have been big political changes in the region. The big one, the Hungarian election. How was that reflected in who you managed to get here and the voices at the forum?
I'm very happy that after so many years we finally had a Hungarian presence.
And in previous years there was not
at the Globsec Forum. In the past we had even Viktor Orbán, but it was.
I've seen photos,
even Viktor Orbán and Peter Szijjártó, but that was 6, 7, 8 years ago. And then they stopped going to international gatherings, including Globsec, MSC, and others. But I'm very happy that we managed to get Anita Orbán, the first or the only deputy prime minister. She has been with Globsec before, and now in the new position. And it was really great to see Hungary back on the international stage. And in Europe, so I'm very happy about that. And she came right after the meetings the first meeting in Poland, Austria, and the NATO foreign ministers meeting, and just few days in office. So this was really the first speech of Hungarian foreign minister.
In a sense that they're kind of reintegrating with.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I did notice that there were, here at the Speakeasy, we had the two sides of the Polish political divide. The president's people and the prime minister's people were both here. And I think more broadly in the forum, you had both sides of the Czech political divide, the president's people and the prime minister's people as well. What kind of role do you see for institutions like yours in bridging these often very deeply politically divided countries?
This is a very important question that you pose, because I think that we are seeing the trend in the societies that you see huge rifts, and the politics is getting very complicated. Some people are not speaking to each other, and then you need forums like GlobSec, which are able to bring together different perspectives, yes, from Poland, the government, but also the president's people. In Czech Republic, we had the President Pavel, but also the Deputy Prime Minister Havlicek. The Foreign Minister was also attending several meetings, including the meeting we hosted with Sheikh Abdallah. And several ministers had a number of bilaterals. So this is very important because at places like GlobSec, you need to be able to create a interaction between opposing views, and that's the mission of these kind of conferences. At the end, Alex Stubb mentioned that in this global systemic transformation, and he mentioned it in this book, places like GlobSec are extremely important for forming the new thinking, what will emerge. And he named GlobSec and several others, which I'm very, very happy about. So I think this is a very important role of places like this.
So what do you think is the balance between the open public events, what we have here, all the stages that you have here around the hotel, and then you mentioned the private meeting with Sheikh Abdallah and the other meetings that are taking place. So what's the driving
So here at the conference we had over 2,000 people from 86 countries with more than 50 political delegations and dozens of CEOs. We had more than 110 formats on main stages, including Politico Speakeasy for the first time, which I'm very happy that they're all public.
Yeah, I think it worked really well.
But more than 50% of the things are being discussed closed door, Chatham House, behind the closed door, and that's the soul of the conference, the meeting place, the bilateral meetings, the multilateral
meetings. There's a
meetings.
reason for these people to gather, and then they can actually...
Exactly. I'm meeting people who have been able to go to the main stage only once or twice because they are busy with meetings all the day. And that's the reason people are coming, because it's the real live meeting place where you can do the political business within 2-3 days, meet the right stakeholders from public, private, media. And that's the real soul of the conference. So these closed-door meetings are very important because sometimes you need a very frank conversation that you cannot do in front of the cameras. And that is something that we are providing very strongly, and it's more than, I would say it's more than 50% of all that's happening at the GlobSec Forum.
And so you've shifted from Bratislava to Prague a few years ago. Has that worked out well? Are you pleased with the change?
I think it worked out very well. This is the third year we are organizing it here in Prague, and I'm extremely happy that we are in this city because it has become a real home. Prague is a beautiful city, especially in May when you go out. It's.
I would have no idea because I've been in this hotel for 3 days.
I've been also inside, but we had the Geotech Garden where you can get a free beer, a Czech beer, which is also very great. It was great, right? Yeah. And I think that it allowed us to grow. It allowed us to become even more independent and increase the number of events and formats that we are doing. So this is the third year. We had really physical limitations in the old venues that we were, and if we wanted to grow, if we wanted to make sure that Central Europe has the largest gathering for geopolitics and security, then I think Prague is the right place. And we have here excellent cooperation with the business community, with the political community, with the government, with the President Pavel, who has offered his full political support. So we are happy about that.
And what's the, as you take a one-day break and then you jump into organizing next year's, what do you think is going to be the sort of the top theme as you organize next year's forum?
What's the top theme for next year?
Yeah.
It's difficult to say, and I have to
it's
tell
such
you.
a turbulent time. It's really hard to
because
tell.
people are asking many times when are we preparing the program for next year? Of course, we start to prepare next year, but the latest program of this year's conference is the 2 days program.
Okay.
Because it has been changing so many times that it's impossible to say, and the international dynamics is so huge that if we say a theme today, it can change in 2 months because some kind of war can come into the place or into the reality. So we need to be able to adapt. So adaptability is very important, and be up to date. And if you want to be up to date, then you are setting the themes at the end, but you are making sure that you have the right stakeholders to discuss the most important.
Yeah, we saw that this year with Trump's decision a couple of days ago.
Exactly.
Big theme here. Robert, thank you very much for agreeing to take part in the conversation, and thanks very much for agreeing to have Politico play a role here.
Thank you very much for the partnership. This is the first time, and I think first time that you are doing Politico Speakeasy at the conference.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy that you started here at the Globsec Forum. This is a great format. People have been chilling and coming here, and I'm very happy.
What Politico is all about.
Yeah. And I'm happy that we'll be continuing in other formats.
Super.
So thank you very much.
And
thank you for coming.
I'd like to thank everybody who's with us in the room and online. And this is the end of our 3-day Politico Speakeasy at Globsec. Very grateful to all the engagement throughout the event. And we hope to see you again next year and have a safe trip back to wherever you come from. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.